and kick things off, we have got a few folks on the call. I'm going to go ahead and just give you a little bit of a rundown of what to expect today. So first off, we will record the session, so we're going to send it out to people who signed up, as well as those who have attended. And then we'll also send you a survey in your browser after today's session. Feel free to go ahead and let us know what you think. Give us some feedback, some thoughts, and we're always looking at that and seeing how we can improve as well. Um, Jojo, anything else to add before we go ahead and kick things off?
Yeah, so I'm going to be monitoring the chat. Any questions that you have, feel free to put it in the chat or in the Q&A, and then we can maybe throughout presentation or the webinar, we can, take a pause and like discuss it and how we can, apply it, within our daily task. But again, just so that we can learn all together, let's set the chat to everyone. Okay, let's make it as interactive as possible.
Yes, please do ask questions. We love that. This session will probably lead to a lot of natural questions, especially if you've never used this part of our platform before. Just kind of as a heads up, a lot of people are just used to sort of sending messages through strictly through an email platform or through maybe LinkedIn as a sort of a one-off message. And today it's going to be a little bit different in terms of a mindset. So sort of shifting our mindsets a little bit more towards automation, drip campaigns, and even kind of I would say borderline marketing type of sort of like theories around creating content and creating emails for our our people that you're going to be potentially reaching out to, right? So all right, we're gonna get things kicked off. I'm gonna go ahead and go over a quick agenda. I'm gonna turn my screen off for the time being. Feel free to ask questions again in chat. Set that to everybody so that way everyone can see them. And I am going to. Does everything look good on your side, by the way, Jojo, in terms of
Yeah,
presenting?
everything looks good. Mhm.
All right. Okay. So, just to kind of kick things off, what are we going to be discussing today in terms of our agenda? So, we're going to talk about what Canada Outreach is, why we've changed a few things. If you used sort of our messaging platform in the past, it's a little bit different. There's some things that are similar, some things that are different. So, we'll sort of talk about what has changed and what's a little bit different. We're going to go through sort of a sample workflow of how you might go ahead and use outreach within our platform. So, sort of the workflow navigation, pointing out some things just to kind of know. And if you want to follow along during that part, please feel free to do so. Um, just kind of a heads up, there is one part where you do need to connect an email. And I think Jojo can always drop in the instructions on how to do that. But that part I won't be able to show just because it's already connected within my platform. We'll also kind of talk about a few updates that have happened and some tips and takeaways and things to kind of consider when using Canada Outreach within SeekOut. All right. So, what has changed and sort of what can we kind of expect within Outreach? So, what we try to do is we try to go ahead and centralize um, our talent pool management within projects within SeekOut, right? So the whole idea is a lot of times people use projects to organize themselves. Things were sort of separated before. They were in a separate section in the platform, and we thought since projects are already being used, why not just combine and add the outreach functionality to a project that someone has already created? So that way you can go ahead and focus with candidates and rather than moving candidates around sort of the platform. So kind of have it all in one place. In terms of campaign management, we've gone ahead and targeted, um, different outreach strategies for effective campaigns to individuals, groups, or an entire project. So even though you are running things potentially within a Seek Out project, you do not always have to send out messages to the whole uh, people, everybody that's in the project that's themselves. We can give you the flexibility and options to kind of do what makes sense for you. And so we try to make it flexible, even though we have kind of added things to sort of a project workflow. We've gone ahead and added this idea of customizable messaging. So oftentimes there is a necessity to go ahead and maybe tailor a message to an individual, calling out some specifics on their profile, but still kind of keep them within a sort of standardized, sort of a standardized sort of template that everybody else sort of is included on, right? So if you want to do one-off messages to some people, but still kind of keep the experience relatively standard in terms of using templates, we do give you the ability to do that within Outreach as well. We've changed some searching and filtering to make things a little bit easier. We've improved some analytics as well. And we've also gone ahead and given the ability to go ahead and export to an ATS if you do have one connected as well, to go ahead and make sure that you have some smooth transitions to, your essentially next stages and working with a prospect or a candidate. So why use outreach, right? So why would you potentially even consider using this part of the platform? So a little bit of upfront work sort of sets the stage in terms of setting it and forgetting it, right? The whole idea is that you might have some templates and other parts of your digital world. You might have some in Word docs, you might have it in Google Docs, you might have it on some notes pad that you have somewhere. You can feel free to use some of that stuff and you don't have to necessarily start from scratch, but the first time you do set up a campaign, it will take a little bit of work and effort, but it sort of allows you to be repeatable, tweak some things here and there, and change it for different campaigns over time. So once you do it once, it's pretty easy to kind of replicate and save time going forward. Um, you can also think about going ahead and reaching out to prospects in different channels, right? So when you do that, it leads to more visibility to where people work and live. Recruiting sort of is shifting a little bit more towards a little bit of a marketing mindset when you consider the purpose of outreach. So sometimes people are reaching out to people for active roles, maybe for pipelining, maybe for talent marketing. And so considering that, you can kind of go ahead and tweak and tailor how you might reach out to people using outreach. But yeah, Jojo, actually, just out of curiosity, when SeekOut reached out to you, did they reach out to you over LinkedIn, email? Kind of like what was the situation? Just out of curiosity.
Funny about that. So they reached out to me in both LinkedIn, but then they also reached out to me via email, but then I responded via email.
Yeah. Right. And that's what people tend to do. They tend to, wherever they're living and wherever they're breathing their daily activities, they might go ahead and respond that way. Some people will respond on LinkedIn, but we find that a lot of times people are successful and sort of responding to emails. So don't give up is basically the motto here. And a lot of times, the folks that you have reached out to in LinkedIn, they may be responsive to an email campaign that you might create and seek out. So it's good to kind of do both. So try out both and see which one is more successful. Um, Leverage some of the work that you've already done. So that's kind of what I was mentioning a little earlier. If you have templates in other places, you can always feel free to copy and paste them. We just recommend doing it in plain text and sort of doing the formatting within SeekOut, and I'll sort of show you how to do that a little later. And then, you know, one of the things that we also find is that a lot of times people have greater success in reaching out to prospects or candidates with multiple touch points versus a single touch point or message. So oftentimes what we find is a lot of times people will send one message in LinkedIn, they won't respond, and they kind of end it there. Maybe they'll follow up a little later, but there isn't this idea of sort of having multiple touch points or multiple messages with different ideas and different sort of like bits of content. And so what we can kind of do here is say have different strategies and different messages and have them sort of set up to go. And depending on whether or not people respond to them, you can kind of continue to send messages to them until they do respond or have a finite number of messages or even say have 4 or 5 messages to go ahead and send to them, and it's a really good way to go ahead and make sure that you're not sort of giving up after the first or second try. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into Seek Out and kind of how we might go ahead and use outreach within the platform. So I'm going to head over to Seek Out. You can always feel free to follow along too. You can use a sample role that you are working on. I'm going to go ahead and just use a pretty universal way of kind of finding people. But let's just say I'm going to search and that I want to find software engineers that, let's see, that maybe have front end experience um, and that are in Miami. So once you go ahead and sort of type what you're hoping to find, you can start here, add other filters on top of this, do whatever you'd like. So, if you wanted to, you can go ahead and sort of tweak things, add things. You can use the Boolean version of search. Really, the whole idea here, actually, I'm going to go ahead and sort of limit this to the United States. And it didn't get Miami, so I'm gonna go ahead and add that. So sorry, it didn't work perfectly that time. But let's just say that we have about a good set of folks that we're kind of considering. We've done some sort of search within the platform, right? Maybe we could add maybe Python and maybe Java as well. Um, so we've gone ahead and added some criteria here. Maybe we'll go ahead and also consider senior software engineers. Okay, so once we've gone ahead and done this, um, now we have what we care about, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off bias reducer so we can see sort of full profiles. So once you start to have some sort of matches and you've done some sort of search, the typical workflow from here would be to go ahead and add people to a project. Maybe then go ahead and get contact information. And so we don't want to stray you away from that workflow. So we've kind of built outreach to kind of complement that particular workflow. So once you've gone ahead and run this particular search, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually change this to 25 people per page. You can actually change that just by going ahead and changing um, the number of results per page. I recommend or no more than 25 to 50. The more you get there, this page is a little bit slower to load. But let's just say that we've gone ahead and we love these first 25 people, right? Let's just say that we're really interested in reaching out to them or whatever the case is. So put those people in a project that you're interested in. And just for simplicity purposes, I'm going to go ahead and add everybody on this first page to a new project. I just click this little project icon. I'm going to create a new project. If you already have a project that you've created, you can go ahead and add them there as well, and just sort of search and find it. But I'm going to say Sweet Front and Software Engineers in Miami, and I'm going to put today's date of 12/20/24. So I've created a project name. These first 25 people are going to be added to the project. Once we've gone ahead and added people to a project, we can start to kind of consider this workflow to be able to engage with them, right? So once you've added people to a project, you're going to see that project folder underneath their profile here. You can actually click on it. You'll see that I've added people on a particular date. And you can also go to the project sort of workflow on the left here by clicking the projects tab here. I'll just do that just for simplicity purposes. You're going to see those 25 people that we've added there. And I'm going to go ahead and click on it. So once we're here, um, there's all sorts of things that you can do in a project, but we're going to be focusing on outreach today, right? And typically, what we recommend doing is once you're here and you know that you want to reach out to them, it's sort of a best practice in this particular workflow to go ahead and just get contact information to start. You can also do it within the Outreach UI, and I'll sort of point that out in just a second. But what's really changed is in this project folder, there's going to be a outreach tab here that sort of leads you to the workflow to be able to reach out, create multiple step drip campaigns for the people in this project that you want to reach out to. Now, in terms of best practices, 25 is a decent number to start, but when you're reaching out to a mass population, we recommend at least having about 100 people that you potentially reach out to. And there's a couple of reasons for that, right? One is not everyone's going to have contact information. So it's good to go ahead and think about sort of like the end results. So needing about 100 people at minimum, you may want a little bit more than that, considering some people may not have the ability to be reached out to, at least within this particular UI, and may not have contact information. We do our best. We get it in real time, and if it's there, we'll go ahead and do it. But if not, the contact information may not be present. So just keep that in mind. Um, so that's sort of a best practice. But Jojo, what do you hear from your customers in terms of like, how many people to reach out to kind of have a single hire based off of initial outreach?
So usually for a project, you mean like how many people they usually have in a project to an outreach?
Yeah, to be able to like reach out. So like say you wanted to make one hire, right?
Oh
How many
yeah.
people do you need to like actually reach out to like get to a decent funnel in terms of response rates to, be able to, get people to, an interview stage or something, right?
Oh
What do you
yeah. So it really ranges, right? Because depending on like the role, some are just really
totally.
like type of roles, but typically it's like 100, sometimes even like 300, right? And
Yeah,
it's
we've seen it vary,
yeah.
right?
So
Yes.
The
So it's
more
good.
that
More the merrier.
sample, like, the more you will get a chance, right? Because of course, if it's, like, a small amount, the chance will be low for someone to respond.
Yeah, because the things you got to consider, right? You got to consider a few things. One is, will they have contact information? If not, they're not going to be eligible to be reached out to. Two, they may not respond. That's another thing, right? So if they don't respond, that's that's something to consider. The third is they may respond and say no, right? So those are like all the sort of variables you may have, and there's all sorts of other things that we can kind of consider as well. So the more people that you have here, the better. So sometimes, you may not even have 100 people, especially if you're dealing with a small location or whatever the case is. That's totally fine. But if you are able to get about 100 people in a project, we will see sort of the results sort of stray in the direction of being able to have, you know, 10 to 15 phone calls, maybe like 4 on-sites and maybe 1 hire, right? You might start to see that funnel work out in your favor with more people up front. So once we're here, we're going to go ahead and get contact information. To be able to get contact information for the whole group, just click this get email icon. You'll be given a warning of how many contact credits you'll be using. At minimum, you have 500 per month. They reset based on a date that's on your dashboard. And if you wanted to know how many contact credits you have, you can just click your name and you can kind of see how many contact credits are remaining. I'm going to get emails for all these people here, but I'm going to go ahead and slide over to the outreach tab here. And this is what's going to be new. So you're going to see this little notification upper right saying that emails are being retrieved. That's totally fine. It's going to take a few minutes to get all the emails for this particular group. You're going to start to see some of them sort of stray in, but we're going to slide over to outreach. And this is what's going to be new for the first time. Now, if you haven't used Outreach before, you're going to be asked to go ahead and connect your email for the first time. And if you haven't connected your email, Jojo, if she hasn't already, can go ahead and drop in the link to sort of give you instructions on how to connect your email. But as a heads up here, sometimes people are not able to connect their email right away. They may need to get in touch with their IT team to get permissions to be able to connect and use Outreach within SeekOut. Usually we go ahead and we'll send your IT team sort of like the reasoning behind it, and they're usually okay with it. We just the sort of the mechanism of outreach within the seek out is that we don't sort of store any information here. We just sort of power the process through your own email provider. And so that's why we actually need the permissions to be able to go ahead and send out emails. And some IT teams don't have that on by default. So we can go ahead and send you those instructions in chat when you have a moment here. So, as you can see, we're still getting emails. They're going to be straying in. And when you are all done, you're going to get a little notification that says that they're all ready to go. So, the whole idea is when you first start and you've connected your email, what do you do? The best thing to go ahead and do is to go ahead and click this create sequence button. And you're going to be given a couple options. You can go ahead and create a new one, a new sequence from scratch. And what a new sequence is it's essentially a series of emails that you would go ahead and send somebody. So email 1, email 2, email 3, email 4. If they don't respond to the first one, we'll go ahead and send the second one and then the third one until someone responds, right? So that's essentially what we refer to as a sequence. Templates can sort of be used as a sequence or as an email. It's a little bit confusing. We're trying to kind of clean up the language there. But just know that you have these options. And if there are any templates that you have used recently, it's going to appear here as well. I'm just going to go ahead and create new. And when you create new, you're going to sort of see sort of a blank slate here. And you might be like, oh, I don't know what to do, right? So if you do have templates, you can go ahead and use a template here. And this is sort of a series of emails that have been saved to a sequence previously. You can go ahead and use that if you want. Now that's option 1. So if you have things saved already, great. Option 2 is to go ahead and potentially copy and paste something from a different source here. And if you do copy and paste, just make sure that you paste in plain text and then do sort of the formatting within SeekOut. You can actually go ahead and clear formatting here when you paste it, clear the formatting in the UI, and it'll sort of be able to be manipulated and changed in terms of formatting when you get the chance. Now, if you have single templates that are saved, that has changed in the UI, and this actually kind of tricked me and Jojo and a few other folks internally when we actually made this change about a month or so ago. So if you wanted to go ahead and um, go ahead and use templates, it's actually here under this email templates section now. It would normally be sort of viewed here under this template section here, but single templates are actually here in this email templates section. So it used to be under three dots. We moved it to make it a little bit easier to find. But if you click email templates here, you'll see any of those single templates that you have saved in the past or maybe have used under our old messaging. They'll all be here and available for you to use. So I'm actually going to use a few of these to start because we already have them created, but just know that you have those three options. You can use a sequence that you've already saved, you can copy and paste from scratch, or you can go ahead and use a template that you already have by clicking the email template button. I'm going to go ahead and do an initial outreach template, which is a step one email. Now, once we've gone ahead and done this, you're going to start to see a few things populate based on the template that we have inserted. You're also going to see some text that is purple and some text that is black. Now, the purple text is what we refer to as a variable. And a variable essentially pulls information from someone's profile based on the uniqueness of their profile, right? So this variable here, candidate first name, I can actually go ahead and sort of create a new one if I wanted to. I can add that variable here. If you wanted to, just click the X. That's where you can add variables in your headline. And you can say candidate first name, and that will appear here. And you can go ahead and have a quick one-liner about your headline to get them engaged, to get them to click on the email. The typical sort of best practice here, short, quick headline. And the whole point of a headline is to get them to click on the email to open it. The content of the email, on the other hand, is what's used to get people to reply. So the headline sort of serves a different purpose than the content of the email. And sort of just consider that when sort of using old templates or creating new templates or doing any of that. Now, if you copy and paste text and you want to save this as a template later, you can actually go ahead and do that by doing either a couple things here. So you can save a single email template here if you'd like, just by clicking Save as Template. And that's easy to do there. Now, if you wanted to and you created multiple steps here, you can actually save all of those into a sequence. And to save that whole entire sequence, or step one, step two, step three, step four emails, that whole sort of sequence, you can go ahead and save that as a template here once we go ahead and create that. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Now you're going to be given a couple different things to consider here. So you can send when the campaign starts, or you can send at a specific time, this first email. I'm gonna go ahead and send us at a specific time. I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm gonna send in the early afternoon. I'm gonna send it at 2. And this is based on your time zone on your computer. And then you can send from your email, or if you connect another person's email, say a hiring manager, you can also send on behalf of the hiring manager. Just keep in mind that if you do, connect an email from a hiring manager or anybody else, the replies will be going to their inbox. So just keep that in mind if you do use that as an option, because we're essentially powering the process. And if an email sends the email, the replies will go to the email that is sent from. So I just have a quick email here. And just keep in mind that again, if you do copy and paste, you want to clear that formatting and then do the formatting within the platform. You can add images, you can add links, you can do all that what you would normally want to do. You can attach files, you can add an email signature. So if I wanted to, I could go ahead and add a signature here, and my signature that I've created would appear on the bottom. You can also just add a new signature as well. Click edit signature, add a signature here. If you do copy and paste a picture, just keep in mind like the size of the photo and all that sort of good stuff. But you can go ahead and add a signature here and add it a little bit later on as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that template. I actually got rid of it by accident. That was not my intent. So hopefully you do not do the same. All right. So once we've gone ahead and done that, I'm going to add a second step. This first email is just like let people know that we have an open role open. I saw their profile. I wanted to see if they're open to a quick conversation. And then we can add a second step here. Once we add a second step, the purpose of this email is to sort of let them know that you've already sent another email, that you're kind of following up, wanting to engage interest, see if the timing is right, and go ahead and do things along those lines. But a second email will also go ahead and have a couple of different options than the first one, right? So if someone does not respond to the first email, they will get the second email. If they respond to the first email, they will not get the second email. So sort of keep in mind that when creating these emails. I'm going to go ahead and select a second template that I've already created. I'm going to select the step 2 email, and I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm following up from SeekOut. If you wanted to, you could also choose to send as a follow-up from the prior thread. And what that does is it just goes ahead and takes that prior subject line and does it as an RE. So it just depends on what you prefer, but just know that you have that as an option. So I'm going to send this in a new thread because sometimes a new thread is helpful if they see a new subject line. And you will be given the option to go ahead and say after what period of time you want to send this email. Now, it defaults to 7 days, but if you do 7 days, it's going to send on the same day of the week. And if someone doesn't respond on the same day of the week, I recommend changing this up, right? So maybe I'll go ahead and I'll do 9 days. So 9 days after that initial email is sent. But you can choose to do whatever you like. I just recommend not sending it on the same day because maybe that's a bad day of the week for them, right? You never quite know. But Jojo, what's your sort of perspective on this? How do you like to think about sending up these follow-up emails in terms of timing?
I like to send them like a little like a week and a half or so, or sometimes even 2 weeks, because you never
Yeah,
know like what people are going through, right? Like family, life in general, and things may change, right? Within the
totally.
month too. So yes, that's what I would typically do. Unless again, if it's a role that needs to be filled right away, because again, I came from staffing, then I probably would do it more to like maybe like 2 or 3 days, right? Because then you
Exactly.
need to submit. So it really kind of depends on like, the urgency as well, right? I'd have to say.
100%. So the whole idea there is that the urgency will sort of dictate the number of days. Now, if you have a little bit of time, say you're pipelining for a role, maybe you do, a week and a half. If you need a little bit more urgent, maybe do a 3 to 5 day follow-up period, right? But, let us know what your perspective is. Feel free to drop that in the chat as well. I'd love to kind of hear what you think. But just keep in mind that they'll get the second email based on the, not responding to the first. So in the second email, I use a variable. And again, just to kind of show you how variables work, I'm going to remove the one that's there. If you want to use a variable, it's these X's, and you have a choice to choose from. I'm going to use the first name, and you'll see that populate there. So you don't need to type out these like little things here. This anything colored in purple is essentially a hard-coded variable that will pull from that candidate's profile. So I just said I reached out to you a few days ago regarding a front-end developer role here at SeekOut. I wanted to follow up to see if we could set up a time connect, just your career interests, and see if it'd be a good match for your career goals. Please let me know if you have a time for a 10-minute chat. I'll be happy to set up a call within the next few days. Looking forward to hearing from you. It's the holidays. Maybe I want to go ahead and mention something along those lines. Um, I can say something. I know the holidays are and New Year are busy, but I hope this still reaches you. Looking forward to hearing from you, right? So you can tailor this to however you'd like. Just remember that if you're using this from an old template, maybe you can use a couple tweaks depending on the scenario. I'm going to go ahead and add my email signature, and I'll add that to the bottom. All right, I'm going to add a third step and a fourth step. I'm going to do this pretty fast. I'm going to go ahead and add that email template real fast that I've already created. I use a different subject line here. I'm going to say I'm just checking in. I'm going to have it as a new thread. I'm going to do it 4 days after that third email. Um, and I say, hi, candidate first name. I used a variable. I know things must be really busy at their current company name. You can't blame me for trying to get a hold of you, though. Let me know if you'd be open to chatting for a few minutes about our open front-end developer role here at SeekOut. I'll go ahead and check in one more time in case our timing is off. Take care. I'm going to go ahead and add a signature because I want to have one. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to add a last step here. I'm going to go ahead and add that email template, use that template, go ahead and add this fourth one. So my subject line here is Canada first name. Do you have a minute? Last check-in from SeekOut. Now I put in just sort of this just to kind of let them know that this is going to be the last time I'm going to be reaching out to them. It kind of provides a little bit of a sense of urgency on their side. It's up to you in terms of how you like to do this. I'm going to still keep this in a new thread. I'm going to do this 9 days after that last email. So in total, this is probably over about a month, I've reached out to them about you know, 4 times. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to send too many emails too fast. But I kind of have spread this out over about a month time period. I just said, hey, Canada, first time I want to check in to see if you're open to discussing our front end developer role. I've been trying to get a hold of you the last couple of weeks. So I sort of mentioned that I've been doing that. Looking at your career history, I think this would be a good step forward in terms of moving into a direction of a player coach and adding skills around mentoring, coaching, and being able to learn from others. If this isn't a good time, no problem at all. Let me know either way if you're interested. You're just sort of asking for a call to action here. And otherwise, I'll keep the window open in case you change your mind. If you have anyone in your network that might be open to an opportunity, please feel free to let me know as well. Good talent knows good talent. I just say, hey, you know what? You can do a little bit of sourcing for me if you like. If you know someone open, go ahead and drop that in. Be well. I'm going to go ahead and add an email signature here as well. Um, Jojo, just from your opinion, what else do you like to kind of potentially add to kind of get people to sort of respond or open up an email? Like, kind of what's your perspective on that?
So I like to, again, love the variables, right? Got to make it personal, and also like ask a question, right? Like, are you open to a conversation? Are you looking for a career move? And then, and you think it makes people because you have to kind of think too. You want to make these people reply, right, of some sort, or
Yeah.
even putting like a Calendly link, right? Like just put a Calendly link there, because
Yep.
then sometimes when you just put a job description, like it's going to be too long, right? I remember reading an article where it takes 7 seconds to get somebody's attention, right? So, like, I wouldn't make the email long, short and sweet, and to the point, so then somebody can reply to like get a conversation going.
I think you hit the nail on the head here. So, one thing that I always really like to sort of stress is that keep your email short and sweet. Do not put the job description in the email. It's too long. You got to remember a lot of times people are viewing this on their mobile phone, and you want to sort of say everything you have to say on that first screen, because people are not necessarily going to be able to scroll and read that whole message. So, save that email to, a few lines and get your message out up front because people are not going to spend more than a few seconds reading what you have to say. So, got to entice them. Talk about the company a little bit if you'd like. So, you can kind of spread that out and sprinkle that out through the series of emails. Talk about how your team is a little bit different or your leadership is a little bit different. Talk about things that make you stand out and entice them. And if you see things that are unique to their profile, in just a little bit, I'll show you how to maybe customize a one off message in just a few minutes. So once again, if you've gone ahead and created a series of emails, if you're at the point where maybe you want to use this in the future a little bit later as a sequence, just pull up all the emails at once, you can go ahead and click and save this as a template. And I'm going to go ahead and name this sequence as SWE 4-step, and I'm going to go ahead and save that. So now that is now saved, I will actually be able to use that as a template in the future. You'll see it there, and you'll see all 4 emails there that you can kind of see that would be able to be pulled up all at once, right? So that is a really nice thing to consider. So once we've gone ahead and done this, we just want to make sure to save everything. And once we go ahead and do that, you're now going to be given the option to go ahead and start to think about who you want to send things to. Maybe you want to double check the emails that have come in. Um, there's a couple different things that you can do. You can also do things like testing the email to make sure it looks good before you send it out to everybody that you want. And we can go ahead and show you a couple of those things in just a second. So, um, in terms of sort of next steps, I generally think it's a good best practice to look at these emails that have come in, that have populated. Now, if you haven't gotten the emails, all you have to do is get email from all within this campaign, and you can go ahead and get the emails for this group. So we give you the option to do it here or previously within the project. I just tend to do it in a project because that's the way I've learned, but either one looks good. So when you go ahead and you see these emails that have populated, if they look good, go ahead and keep them. If you are maybe like, hey, do they have an alternative? Maybe I want to consider, maybe I don't know if I want to use this Hotmail, maybe I want to use that, educational email. You can go ahead and click on it and change the one that you want to go ahead and send it to. Now, on the flip side, there's actually also settings here that you can go ahead and consider for this campaign as well. So if I wanted to go ahead and go click up on the settings here, you can go ahead and consider some settings for this particular campaign. So now you can default to a personal email address or a work email address. I always generally recommend the personal. You can always say if that is not available, don't send it to the other addresses. So I actually kind of like that. I don't want it to send it to the other one, so I'm going to check that. Now, here's where things get a little interesting. You can choose to go ahead and send Monday through Friday, or you can also send it on the weekend and check those boxes as well. We default Monday through Friday. I don't necessarily think that's the best. I think certain roles actually make sense to send on the weekend. I don't know, Jojo, what do you find?
You know me, I'm all about over communicating. So,
Yeah.
like, because like if you think about it, I don't know about y'all, but like I check my email on the weekends, like, before you go to work, because I have
Yep.
it connected on my phone. And it's like, okay, if you're already checking your work email, you're gonna check, I think from like either or, right? You check your personal, your work, or the other way around. I end up checking the personal one at some point throughout the weekend. And I think that would be a good way to, get a hold of people and then replying throughout the weekend and then setting up that time with that recruiter if I got
100%.
reached out to. Mhm.
We call them the Sunday scaries, and we like
Oh, yeah.
to maybe look at our email and see what's going on and see what's out there. So I agree. Sunday at the very least. If you want to include Saturday, go for it. But you got to remember, some people have different work schedules, right? Depending on the type of role, like Jojo used to recruit for nurses, they're definitely working on weekends. There's different types of roles that may lead to different outcomes. So choose this wisely, but I'm going to go ahead and select all for now. Now, keep in mind that we also go ahead by default now and include spam prevention by including an unsubscribe header. And this is based on some new rules around Outlook and Gmail and the requirements around that. So people will now be able to essentially unsubscribe from an email. So keep that in mind. People can unsubscribe from your email. We recommend keeping this here for spam prevention purposes. There's also some global outreach settings here. I won't sort of go into this today, but really these are also around if you wanted to go ahead and connect another email account, if you wanted to go ahead and change how many seconds we send messages. So we default by 60. We also have an upper limit of 1,000 messages that you can send out per day. You can change those, but keep in mind that it may affect maybe spam scores or things along those lines. So I'm going to make sure that these are saved. And we're going to go ahead and it all looks good there. Now, a couple of the things that are customizable in terms of before we kind of want to consider starting a campaign. Now, you could go ahead and start the campaign for all. You could also go ahead and filter for people that are ready to start. These are essentially people that have emails. So remove the people that don't have emails. You can kind of consider filtering by that if you'd like. And if you wanted to, you don't necessarily have to send it to everybody in this group, right? We've pulled everybody from that project, but if you don't want to, if you wanted to just say maybe sends and start a campaign for a few folks, you could go ahead and say like, just gonna select these 5. I'm gonna go ahead and start the campaign for those 5 if you wanted to. You can go ahead and do it for a subset. So this is some flexibility that we've built in here. Now, the other thing that we recommend doing is previewing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to deselect this. I'm going to go ahead and preview this particular person. I just want to see whether or not the email looks good, if the formatting is fine, if I need to change anything. And I can also go ahead and see, whether or not their name is being pulled correctly and just things like that for all intents and purposes. Because when you send things out in bulk, you only really get one chance to make sure things look good. So we recommend doing that up front. I'm gonna go ahead and click preview here, and you're gonna be pulled into this UI that sort of gives you a preview of what things will look like when they're sent out. We recommend going ahead and looking through all of these and making sure that things look good. So for example, all the signatures are included. I don't have a signature on that one. I may want to consider, doing that if I wanted to. Want to make sure that the email is being pulled correctly. You're going to see Ricardo is here first. You can also see the other emails that are there as well. If you wanted to scroll through all of the candidates that are here, you can go ahead and sort of make sure that things look good. Now, as I mentioned a little earlier, we built in this really cool thing to where we can go ahead and customize a one-off message. Now, there is a caveat to this. If you do want to customize a one-off message for somebody, you can do so, but once you've gone ahead and customized a message for anybody, the templates are essentially become static and you can't change them any further. So really, I recommend customizing messages sort of further down the line and doing it at the very end. So that way you do have a little bit of flexibility before that to be able to sort of change a template if you need to. But just keep in mind that if you do customize a one-off to one individual, you will sort of freeze your templates. So let's just say that Margarita, I know that she said something on her profile. I wanted to call that out. I could actually go ahead and customize this as a one-off message. Um, we give you a warning about this, so you will not be able to update your campaign templates. So for this person, I'm gonna go ahead and say like, I really loved your project on building I don't know, casino app or something, right? Whatever was on their profile that you wanted to go ahead and call out. Now, once I've gone ahead and customized it, I can go ahead and save the changes, and this will be saved for her, and that will be a one-off message. Everybody else will sort of get the sort of standardized template, right? You can go ahead and run through. Um, and she was at DraftKings, so it really makes sense that the casino app was there. And I can sort of scroll through and see whether or not things look good. Now, there's another way that you can go ahead and look at formatting too, and that is to go ahead and test an email. Now, what you can go ahead and do, and I recommend doing this for all 4 steps to your work email if you want, is you can go ahead and say, for this is step 1, go ahead and test that email, and you can go ahead and send it to your email address and see what the formatting will look like. I recommend doing this for all 4 steps, especially if you're sending it to a big group like 100 people. You want to make sure that the formatting looks good. Now, if you send a test message, that test message will now be sent to your email, and you'll see what that looks like. I can actually go ahead and briefly show you what this looks like here real fast. Um, I got that test email right here, and it just shows you what the formatting will look like, right? So I recommend going ahead and doing that when you get a chance. Now do that for all of the steps. And after you're done, if you're comfortable, you can go ahead and start that campaign. Now you can click start campaign here, or you can go ahead and start the campaign for all here, or that subset like I showed you a little earlier. Now, just a couple call outs here. I'm going to go ahead and just assume that people have responded. Now, if people have started to respond and you started to get some metrics, I wanted to call out just kind of what we have here on the top. You'll see some metrics on how many people have gotten the message, how many people have opened, how many people have clicked, how many replies have been received. You'll sort of see that data here. We'll give you some specific numbers below to make that a little bit more clear. We've actually gone ahead and changed this pretty recently. This is actually a new feature, and I like how they've done this. They made it a lot more easy to understand, and I can really appreciate that. And that's based on some feedback from customers. So once you've seen that, you can go ahead and click on this. You can actually filter. These are actually filterable. So you'll see the people that have replied. Now, what's really neat is we've kind of built in next steps. So if you have these people that have replied and you filter by replied, you can actually, if you have an ATS connection, export them to the ATS. That's sort of like the next step, right? So that's a really neat thing to kind of consider as well. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you before we sort of head out with some best practices is that if you are in projects, you may want to see how all of your campaigns have performed at once, right? If you have multiple campaigns, you can go ahead and click on projects here. There'll be a section here called campaign summary, and it's essentially a summary of all the campaigns that you've created. And you'll be able to see some stats here, that have populated, but these are campaigns that I've created that don't actually exist to real people. So that's why stats have not kind of come in. But keep in mind that you can kind of see all of your campaign summaries here as well. So that's a really neat thing that we have built based on some customer feedback as well. So to get back to outreach, just click on the project, click on the outreach tab, and you'll see all that information. You'll see some information around progress, and you can do what you'd like here based on some of the responses that you've gotten. All right. Last thing that I wanted to share, we can answer any questions as well, is that I wanted to go ahead and we've talked about the unsubscribe leak. I wanted to go ahead and talk about some tips and takeaways here. So a couple things. Make sure to test your emails to yourself to check for formatting before you start a campaign. It's a good best practice, especially if you're reaching out to 100 plus people. We recommend at least a 4-step outreach sequence since people tend to reply to messages later in the sequence. Think about that third or fourth email. we've had some customers on our training say that it's the ninth email that people respond to. And I'm like kind of flabbergasted by that, but that's where they see the most success. So I showed you how to do a 4-step. You can go ahead and do more than that, but we recommend that kind of at the bare minimum. Test different message content. Remember, shorter is often sweeter. That's what Jojo mentioned a little earlier. Remember that people are looking for emails, at emails on their phones and smaller screens. So keep that message short. Keep the and consider the purpose of your outreach. So whether or not it's an immediate role, it's pipelining, employer branding, and kind of customize that content depending on the circumstances of that email. You can create new templates based on that as well. Make sure unsubscribe is turned on for folks that may not want to be contacted. So we kind of showed you that as well. And you also want to consider replies to messaging campaigns come to your email. So those replies are not stored within SeekOut. We only store and power the process. Those emails are, and we kind of have the campaign stats, but we don't have anything beyond that. So all of that will live within your email. And if you do get a bounce, you may want to go ahead and consider, creating maybe a bounce sort of email setting for some of those bounces that may come into your email, just in case some of those emails do bounce. But Jojo, that's all I got. What do we got in terms of questions or anything else you wanted to add?
Yes, I got a question asking, can I have more than one email attached at once so I can toggle to other on the from email options?
So you can attach more than one other person, but you have to get permissions from them. So if
Right.
you
Mhm.
want, Jojo, you can drop in the link about like how to sort of ask for permissions or get permissions from somebody else. But
I
essentially
did.
what you do, oh, of course you did.
Yeah, the send on behalf, right? The
Send on
using different,
behalf.
yeah, and then it has like the instructions too, like on the hiring managers end on what
Hmm.
they're going to do to get connected. So I just want to make sure Jamie was good to go on that.
Yep. 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 So sometimes that makes sense, but again, my
Hmm.
caveat here is those replies will go to the person. So if you send out 100 emails, you can maybe expect 100 emails to get into their inbox, right? So just keep in mind that save it for those really important moments. But it's not a bad idea to do, especially if you're gonna try to test out new content, right?
Exactly.
Good question.
Hmm. But yeah, that was the one and only question I got. But I did put in the chat, like, connecting your email. And if you want to use that send on behalf, there's an article on that as well. Oh, here's another one. Will other members of your org, other recruiters, be able to access the sequences/templates you create?
No, but we are working on that. So Jojo,
Hmm.
I believe that you know this from our product team as well. So this is
Hmm.
probably one of the top 5 things that we hear from customers. And it just makes sense. And so I know our product manager, Ed, on this particular part of our platform has that on his roadmap and agenda. I don't know when it's going to be released, but it should be within the next quarter or so. So the answer is soon.
Oh, thanks a lot for that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So thank you for asking because I can just talk to Ed and be like, hey, we want more people are kind of requesting it.
Hmm. And then Jamie added, it'd be nice to have one spot for all of the outreach data, I think compiled in one spot in addition, so I can see at the end of the year how many I've sent, replied, etc., instead of having to select each project. But I think
No,
wouldn't
that's
that
what I
be the
showed.
candidate, the
Yeah.
summary, right?
So
The
yeah,
can
so if
the
we go
campaign, I'm
here,
sorry,
yep,
summary. Hmm.
projects, campaign summary, it will have all of that information compiled in terms of sent, open, clicked, all that stuff for all of your campaigns at once. Is that what you were looking for and asking? We built that about 2 months ago based on some customer feedback. So there's no numbers that are populated here because I haven't actually sent out these messages because they were kind of fake campaigns. But if you actually had campaigns, all of those campaigns would be populated with statistics there. So
He
it's
said,
essentially a one-stop shop, one-stop shop, right? Yeah.
and then Jamie added, but then I'd still have to add it to get a rough estimate.
Yes. So there will be
Mm.
some like you could theoretically pop this into a spreadsheet and do that if you wanted to. But yes, the idea is that we are only going to sort of show you the numbers. If you wanted to have like an overall aggregate, That's something that we can pass to our product team. I don't see why that would not be a good, thing to kind of consider.
Mhm.
What do you think, Jojo?
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think this is a product feature request.
Yeah, I think this is a good request. But
Yeah,
if you want an aggregate data for everything, that would be something that, we could ask for. But in the meantime, just pop this into a spreadsheet and you can go ahead and add that if you wanted to. But all the data would be here.
great workaround for the moment, right? Until we get that request in. Hopefully we
Yeah,
can go live. And one more question
sure.
right here. Is there a way to create a campaign without associating it with a project? Can you
No.
create a sequence not associated with a role?
No to the first, yes to the second. So you can create a sequence just as a template and you can modify it and use it for different projects at any point. However, we did build this new essentially platform, what we were referring to candidate outreach, to live within projects. Now, if you have used our old messaging, this might be slightly confusing to you because sort of messaging was its own thing, right? But what we've
Mhm.
done is we've heard and based on customer feedback that it was weird to have things sort of like separated. So we went ahead and integrated it, and that's why it's now lives within projects. But as I mentioned a little earlier, we give you the flexibility. You don't always have to send out a message to everybody in the project. You can filter, you can do a subset, you can do whatever you like. So essentially, they run in projects, but we give you the flexibility to do what you like.
Great questions.
All right. So that's all we got for today. These are some great questions. You guys are a good crew.
Right.
Thank you
I
so
know,
much
right? I
for
love
asking
it.
some great questions. These are the ones that I'd be asking if I were on the other end. So great stuff. Now, what I recommend is trying this out. If you haven't done it before, give it a shot for one role. Add 100 people to a project, get all that contact information, and see how it works. Determine how many steps, I would say at minimum four, create your templates, give it a shot, and it might take about 45 minutes up front to set up one, but that could then be used in the future and tweaked and all that good stuff and take you no time in the future, right? But just that initial setup might take a little bit of time. Alrighty. If you do have any questions on connecting your email, feel free to reach out to our support team. So you can go ahead and click on that little support icon in the lower right. Our team will get back to you. Jojo dropped in the instructions as well, but we do realize that some teams sort of block it up front. And if you do run into that, just let us know and we'll send you the right information to send to your IT team. But that's all we got. You're going to get a survey in your browser that will ask you a couple questions, give us some feedback, and then we'll send you a recording in the next 24 business hours or so. So maybe early next week. But in the meantime, have a great holiday. And if you do want to join us on Monday, we have another webinar. But Jojo, anything else to add before we leave?
I think we're all good. If you're in the US, happy holidays. If you celebrate, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yes, and happy Hanukkah and happy
Yes.
Kwanzaa and all
Kwanzaa.
all of the
Yes.
holidays. Yes, so
Right.
we appreciate all of you and take care and we'll see you soon. Have a good rest of your week. Bye bye.
Bye.